the Tech Addicts Podcast. Tell your friends. Ted has 12. This week, a load of tech from CES 2024. We've got not one, but two fitness rings, Bluetooth speakers with replaceable batteries, a laptop that's half Windows, half Android, space reflectors, and an exciting new solar-powered tech. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I hope you're all well. Some of us are. I'm fine. But my co-host, Mr. Ted Salmon, isn't. Oh, I'm Gareth, by the way. I'm feeling better.
Hello,
Ted,
Gareth.
how are you?
I'm glad you're feeling better. Yeah, I've got a bunch of symptoms which are not COVID, and it's not a head cold. It's just a bunch of other symptoms, like feeling sick and stomachache and earache and...
Very fluey, sorry.
I don't know. I should have had that flu jab, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But I'm here on my sick bed supplying content for our wonderful listeners.
Yes. Coughing, burping and farting, as you would well expect.
It's really windy here as well. Not from my farting, but there's this storm going through at the moment, and it's you can probably hear it. There's gusting wind going on, which is my least favourite element. Yes, I keep going hot and cold as well, but I think that's not the wind, it's something else. What's the weather like there?
Oh, it's grand. It's sorry, that was a bit of wind from my.
I've got these midges flying around, and midges are supposed to be here in the summer, not in January, for goodness sake.
Stop the farting. That's what's attracting them. The weather's not terribly nice here. It's windy and rainy, but this storm Isha that we're getting,
that's the one,
isn't cracked up to be all it's supposed to be. So I imagine we'll all be out playing Ring-a-Ring-a-Rosies in the garden later on.
A pocket full of posies.
Yes, and everybody dies. Right.
Yeah.
Well, this week was an exciting one, was it not? We had Samsung Unpacked, Galaxy Unpacked, if you like, which had lots of very exciting things. And you and Steve had a big chit-chat about all the phony type stuff on the phone show chat last night.
Yeah, which doesn't leave much, actually, because nearly all of it was about the phones. And it'll be a bit tedious for us to go over all that again. But the only thing that wasn't a phone was this ring. The trouble is, though, that, and we'll come to rings a bit later in the show again, but they didn't really say anything much about it. They just kind of teased it right at the end. Did you watch the event?
I watched a little bit of it, but then I had to go out.
Yeah.
I didn't see the ring be announced, but I had a quick read at it later on, and there really isn't too much to tell. It's just it's still on the horizon. Yeah. But it's concrete evidence that the ring thing is going to happen. And
do you think you would get one?
Absolutely not. But I know my wife was quite interested when I mentioned it to her. Right. Because runners like to have as little crap around them as possible, and she finds it difficult to run with her phone in her wee pouch thing, so we moved her to a smart watch, and again that's still a bit kind of bulky on her, although it does do an awful lot. And whenever I mentioned, the likes of essentially the ring being a fitness thing that's a bit like the watch, she started imagining that the ring was going to have everything that the watch had in it, and I was like, well, I don't think it's going to go that far. You're not going to be able to synchronize music to it and play it back whilst running and all that. It is more kind of blood sensory stuff.
Health.
Yeah, it'll measure your specifics as you're running along, irregular heart rates and blood stuff, and sleep, irregular heart rate and stuff like that. But you still have to charge it as well. So it does a lot more than an Apple Watch currently does.
I wouldn't like to comment on that because I don't know anything about it. It certainly does a lot more than the Apple Ring does.
Oh, yes, yeah. And the Xbox ring of death.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, so it was all about the S24 range, really, and the AI, very, very AI-centric, nothing very exciting, copying Apple with a titanium build and going back to flat screens, and, it was just like, it was so incremental, really. It's all based around software, and most of the presentation was all around AI and software.
But do you feel that the S24 Ultra is pretty much what you wanted as a phone maybe 10, 15 years ago, before they started getting curved edges and all that kind of stuff, tapered edges? I look at it now and just think, that's it. That's beautiful. I think it's gorgeous. I think the way it is everything that I have wanted in a phone for so many years. I think it's almost perfected, aside from the cameras sitting out a little bit. If they were flush and the phone was to sit flush to the desk, then I reckon that would just be the icing on the cake. But everything around it, the bezels are minimalistic, but not to the point that your fingers are going to accidentally touch the screen. It's built out of a hard-wearing material that is going to endure daily life, not a rough life, but daily life. You probably will put a case on this, but you know the way you see in movies, they don't have cases on their phones. It kind of justifies that, and it's a wee bit tougher, and it will be able to be thrown about a bit more, despite the fact that it's newer and more spangly. It has that feeling of, yeah, we're reaching the almost perfect design for the phone that we wanted years ago, whenever the iPhone and Samsung Galaxies were first coming out. Do you feel that at all?
Well, it's subjective, isn't it? Because I know there's a lot of kind of move towards we want flat screens again, but I really like my curved screens. There are limits, but my Motorola, for example, I just like the way it curves around the edges, and also it makes it feel less wide because of that. But tomorrow I would argue the other way and say, no, flat screen's the best. So, it just depends what you want and what you like. You can't deny that curved edge screens look really sexy and really premium and classy, and it's but then maybe the public are past all that. Joe Public now has been wowed by curved glass, and they want to be practical again.
See, I've never been a big fan of the curve on the edge of the screen. Ever since the Samsung Galaxy Edge came out, I felt like, why? I think it's fine, just perfectly flat, like we've had with tablets, continuing throughout those years. Mm-hmm. But, I've accepted curved screens, but I've never felt the benefit. If anything, I've found them a wee bit intrusive, because when you're holding it, fingertips can spill over and touch the side of the screen that's on, that can be touched, and that bothers me. Whereas this, it's a wee bit more resistant, and because of the tapered edge that they have on the casing of the phone, they've been able to expand it out so that the screen is almost everything in the phone. There is a distinct lack of bezel. It's been brought down to an absolute minimum at the moment. I'm sure in the future that they'll still be able to shave a few millimeters off again and again.
Yeah, gaming triggers is a good argument for curved screens, because if you've got the shoulder, the gaming triggers buttons around the curve, that works quite well. So if you had a gaming phone, it might work. If you didn't have a proper gaming phone with proper hardware triggers, I suppose.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying. It's a big phone, of course, and making the screen completely flat makes it even bigger. And Yeah, I can see what you're saying. If for people that are happy to have a big screen device like that, then fair enough. I've got an S23 Ultra, and as I was saying last night, I have no intention at all of upgrading it because it all, apart from the stuff that clearly wows you, and you're in the market for a change, so that's great. But with an S23 Ultra sitting here, I just don't see the upgrade path as in any way essential or even desirable. I'm quite happy with what it is, and with them saying that they're going to backport at least some of the AI stuff, like those demonstrations they did with the translation. You see, the other thing that came across from the event was that they've got into bed with Google. And all of the stuff that Google have put into Pixels suddenly are magically appearing in Galaxy phones, and it seems that it's almost like Google have said, well, the only way we're going to catch up with Apple here is to get in bed with Samsung, because Samsung are up there with Apple in terms of sales and all the rest of it. So we will, we'll partner with Samsung effectively. And sure enough, they're just sharing all the same AI tools, all the same software, and a lot of the design language as well in the software. So, who knows what will happen to Pixels?
Well, yeah, that is true. Yeah, but I think Google has selected a different manufacturer to work on the Tensor project. So the Tensor G5 is going to be not Samsung, which might fray some tensions or create some tensions, fray some relations. But we'll see.
Yeah, but that might be because they are planning on ditching the whole Pixel line and just working with Samsung on their hardware. And they say, well, we won't clutter the landscape by having this Tensor thing kicking about in Samsung's department. We'll get that away and out from what we really want to do.
Well, possibly, yeah.
The only trouble is that people that have bought the Pixel 8 have been offered 7 years of updates.
Yes,
so
that's true, yeah.
They might be thinking, oops, I should have bought a Samsung after all.
But I don't think a Pixel 8 will last that long, really.
No.
That's just them covering their rear ends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want to hear more about the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event and a deeper phone analysis, because we barely touched on them, do listen to the Phone Show Chat, because Ted's on there giving his 50 cents, I suppose 2 cents, on everything that happened at Samsung Unpacked. And there's no shortage of people talking about it. So what we'll do is we'll carry on and talk about other things that are tech-related. For example, Ted, you have the Sound Motion 100 Bluetooth speaker, which was a nice little speaker that was released quite recently. It's a cute portable speaker that you've had some fun with.
Yeah, it came free with my earphones, which are called... What are they called? They're called the Aero something Pro, aren't they? Do you know, I can't even remember what they're called now. It's Soundcore...
AeroFit Pro.
AeroFit Pro, that's it. And they're really, really nice, and I did a review of those. But with those, I got a free little speaker, and I went completely overboard writing a review on something that's worth 44 quid. I'll link to the review in the show notes. It's currently 44 quid on Amazon. The RRP is... It's $59.99, but it's cheap enough, and it's a nice little speaker. It's really nifty. It sounds amazing for the price. There are some things missing, like there's no assistant stuff, and you can't do phone calls with it. But it's stereo, and it blasts sound out like nothing else. Really, really impressed with it. Anyway, yeah, I'll link to what I said about it in the notes.
Yeah, I'm having a look through your review now, and it is quite extensive. Flipping heck.
Yes. I started writing and I thought, this will just be a quick one. It's only 44 quid's worth. And then I just kept on writing.
You got carried away. Oh, no, that's excellent, actually. Anyone who's considering buying something should really look at this. And this is the kind of thing that, Anchor or Soundcore make their bread and butter from, because this will be their biggest selling speaker. Kids everywhere will be looking at this because it's cheap, but it's damn good quality.
Yeah, and it's built really well as well. It's all rubbery on the outside, and yeah, works really well. Good enough battery. It's waterproof to IPX7, I think it is. So you can chuck it in a pool. It's a good little speaker, and if I hadn't got it for free, and I knew what I know now, I probably would buy one. Well, except that I've got a house full of Bluetooth speakers, which doesn't really help. Anyway, yeah, it's a good little thing. The other thing that happened this week is that I discovered, or perhaps rediscovered, or stumbled over something that I previously reported and completely forgot. That the Pixel book, which is here, which actually belongs to Judge Ian Barton, but he seems to be leaving it with me forever, which is great. Thank you, Ian. It's got 3 years of new life, which is just great. They were going to end it in June 2024, which was one of the reasons that Ian got a new one, because that was looming. And now they've said that we are going to continue that until... August 27? That's right, yeah, August 27. They were going to make people opt into that. So when you got to June 24, they were going to say, if you want this extension to August 27, you've got to opt into that possibility. But now they're not doing that. They're making it automatic. So really impressed. 2017 that Pixel book was released, so that's giving that, along with other Chromebooks now, 10 years of life, which is great. And it's a super device. The battery's still good, and it's very, very well made and very feature rich.
Excellent. That's great news for anyone who shelled out the lot of money that Pixel book was when it first came out.
Yeah, and it was a lot. I've got the 128 gigabyte version, but the i7 all singing, all dancing, flying version was. I think at the time it was about 1,700 quid or something, wasn't it? It was silly money.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And they have released one other Chromebook since then, haven't they? They've done the
Slate. Sorry, the Pixel book. Go, that's right.
Yeah.
Was it the Go? Yeah, the Go. Which was
cheaper
not.
one.
Yeah, it wasn't the same quality as this one. This one is so well made. It's really nice to have access to it. So yeah, nice one.
I forgot about the Slate, actually. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, moving into the tech news, and we've got some interesting bits and pieces to have a wee discussion on. The first one is about fingerprints and how scientists are somewhat baffled about how AI has managed to correctly assign individual fingerprints to one person, and they don't know how it's done it. Can you explain what exactly is going on here and how they did it? How did they do it, Ted?
No one knows how they've done it, and the scientists that have discovered it and the people that have worked it out don't know how they've done it, but they've done lots and lots of, I think they said they've done 60,000 separate tests, and every single one of them comes back as accurate. So what they're talking about, the benefit of this largely is for crime reporting. So if, for example, you've got two fingerprints in two different locations and nothing to tie them up to the same person, even if one's a thumb and one's an index finger, then by using this AI, they can say, yeah, those two are from the same person. Up to now, they've thought that fingerprints are completely unique. The interesting thing was that Graham Williams, at the end of this, a professor in forensic science, said that we don't actually know that fingerprints are unique. So all the time we've been thinking they are unique. We may be wrong. All we can say is that as far as we are aware, no two people have yet demonstrated the two same fingerprints. But then there could be some bloke that lives in the outbacks of outer Mongolia that has a fingerprint that's never been tested, and a person living in the Amazon jungle, and those two are the same. So
yeah, okay. So we need a giant fingerprint database.
Yes.
Of everyone who's ever lived.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, yeah, so it was quite an interesting take on that, and interesting that they don't, the scientists haven't worked it out yet. I'm sure they will.
Yeah. And they've checked that it is correct, and they're not just sort of completely by accident.
60,000 times.
Well, it's possible. The odds are quite extensive, but it's not impossible.
Indeed.
All right. Well, moving into farming, because we all love a good bit of farming, but what they're reckoning is that if they were to put up some reflectors in space, it could bounce light down onto farms that can allow Earth to, work longer during the day. So farmers, I know you like to go to bed at night, but what if you didn't have to go to bed at night and you could just work right through? That would be great, growing potatoes.
I think they're talking about making the evenings longer and the mornings lighter, and not that no one's allowed to sleep anymore.
No, make farmers work right through. That'll give them something to complain about.
But if you scroll down in this article, you can see one of these giant mirrors, and there's a figure somewhere. How big is it? 250... I can't find it now. But it's these reflectors are huge. 20 metres.
250 metres long.
250 metres long, right,
3 tonnes. And it sits 900 kilometres above us.
And getting that up into space, as you can imagine, or, building it in space is going to be a challenge in itself. And that's just one of them. They're talking about littering the sky with these. So, as you quite rightly say, when the sun is the wrong side of the Earth, it can bounce back the light in the same way as the moon does. And, fire it down on solar panels and collect all the electricity. Interesting idea. Sounds really futuristic, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, yeah. I'd taken it from the point of view that, it wasn't quite solar farms, it was more potato farmers, and they would be able to work during the night. That was just a bit of a joke at the start of the article, but I do think that is something that could be looked into as a possibility. I don't know if it is a thing, but it could be quite interesting. It can also be, it's a weapon that we've seen used in countless Bond films, where they've been able to focus the sunlight and set fire to things and blow things up. So, I worry about these kinds of things because they could fall into the wrong hands and evil people could do their bidding that way, and we could, threaten other countries depending on who it is. If Elon Musk was to put it up there and he was to suddenly decide that he doesn't like Facebook, he could burn up Meta's headquarters or something like that, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but still not kind of cricket, really, is it?
No, or on a more practical level, charge what he likes for providing the electricity to those who want it, and say, well, if you don't pay my fees, mwahaha, you won't get it.
Yeah. Quite right. Well, one thing that could catch it is Jackery. Jackery could make use of this technology because they've debuted a new rooftop solar tent at CES this year that allows you to, power yourself whilst you're camping on top of your car. These car-based tents seem to be taking off. I don't know that I would like to live on top of my car or camp on top of my car. Puts extra weight on the structure of the car.
So they're putting a tent on top of the roof of your car and then flapping out solar panels in order to generate electricity and power your whatever it is you want to run inside it. It just looks stupid, doesn't it?
Well, yes, but it's kind of understandable. If you were heading out into Outer Mongolia to look for the guy with the fingerprints that are the same as the guy in the Amazon, you would need something like this to be able to make the trek, or Arctic explorers. But I'm guessing that obviously opening up these panels and things are going to make it, and because it's sitting up a good bit higher, it's going to be, wind is going to be one problem that could tear it apart. It needs to be quite well built. But for the average camper, it's a cool kind of option to just be able to throw on top of your car. I remember seeing on what's it called, not Kickstarter or something like that recently. There was like this case that was a self-building tent thing that you could put on top, and you just kind of pull a few levers, and the tent erects itself. on top of your car, and it was that simple. I think it worked off your car's battery, and they tried to make this as easy as possible for you to be able to just put up the tent, because everybody hates putting tents up, and having it on top of the car makes it even more difficult to get at because of the height ratio. So if Jackery have got this down where it is just something that can be put up in 5 minutes with as little human contact as possible, then this will be a big thing. Campers everywhere.
I wonder how you stop from sliding off the... You talk about flat phone screens. You'll need to have cars with flat roofs on, won't you, now? No more curbs on roofs of cars.
Well, it goes on your your roof box bars or your roof bars that you can get. They can generally support a huge amount of weight now. They're getting stronger and stronger, but you're going to have the best possible ones that can take a particular weight.
Very, very silly.
I think it's cracker. I'm looking forward to these becoming normal. But JBL have debuted a replaceable battery that can go in portable Bluetooth speakers.
Whoa.
And Ted, you like your portable Bluetooth speakers, have we already established? What do you think of these?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, and it's more companies trying to do this kind of recyclable, regenerative. We're finding ways to get people to not have to ditch hardware and buy new hardware, and this is a good example of that. They've brought this range of speakers out, which you can... I think some of them are user replaceable. Most of them are, the smaller ones certainly, and some of them you have to send back to JBL to get a new battery put in. But the point is that most of them are user changeable, and you can just buy a new battery. No prices or anything for any of this, because at CES that tends to be the case. No one wants to say how much anything's going to cost. But yeah, a great idea, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah. Just another step in the evolution of the Bluetooth speaker, isn't it?
Indeed.
True. And next up in the hardline for the hardware section, we have...
Smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision. Wow, yes.
Do you remember that when it first came out and they got people scratching and sniffing stuff?
Oh, nice. Really nice. So, yeah, the whole idea is to try and get you using your other senses whenever you're watching something and draw you in. So you could... Well, I think there's 4D cinemas where you have... I went to see Jurassic Park in a 4D cinema, the Dominion, the most recent Jurassic Park film, and it had water would spray at you whenever they were going through a wettish kind of scene, and then there would be air that sprayed at you. So why not make you smell things that are happening on the screen as well? And that's essentially what the aroma shooter does that we've seen at CES. And they give some examples where they have lavender and blueberry and certain types of shampoo, caramel, smoke, which I'm sure you don't really want that much, and freshly cut grass. And you can make them more or less intense and actually have a bunch of them running at the same time and blend them together, which is kind of interesting. But I'm guessing there's got to be some kind of fluid in these little... containers that get puffed up into your face. So it's not that Netflix is suddenly going to introduce smell-o-vision and you'll be able to sit down and smell your favourite TV show. Oh, God forbid you're watching Pornhub. But yeah, Ted, would you be interested in smell-o-vision?
It would be interesting to try it, certainly. And this guy from Engadget who tried it out said it works really well on the demonstration. Yes, you do need to buy these cartridges, which are $30 each. The device itself is $350. Each cartridge should last for around 300 shots, whatever shots are. Or up to 3 months, depending on blah, blah, blah. But yeah, this guy said that he tried it out, and it actually is very engaging with VR, for example. So if you've got a VR headset on, and you're walking into a 1940s cinema and it's full of smoke, then you'll be able to smell the smoke. Or going into a freshly cut field and smell the fresh grass, etc., you know. And it's an interesting idea. Not a new one, as I say. We used to get these magazines had these scratch and sniff things. Do you remember those? And you would scratch the thing off and actually smell some aroma or other. Very funny. But all this hardware looks... There's one that goes around the neck, which is the main one they're talking about. But there's also a setup where they've got one, they're showing one that's set up in front of a computer screen, which kind of fires stuff at you. I think that's what it is. Interesting idea for those with pots of money and who want to push the boundaries.
Well, they've got to be developing this for a particular case. You know, there's got to be something that's required. This isn't going to be something that you're going to see in Tesco for sale, and the little pods are for sale as well. I can't imagine the mass market are going to be using it. So it must be for, I don't know, therapy or something like that, or trying to create immersive things, or perhaps people in comas, you know, weird things that might need this, and you can stimulate people through smell as opposed to anything else. But I see in the show notes there you've put together ideas for Ted's fart pack. That's not going to go ahead.
Yeah, it's an interesting scope of, as you say, what it could be used for, which is what CES is all about, really. It's like, you know, let's dream up something wacko and see if any of it sticks.
Yeah. Speaking of wacko, a palm-sized e-reader that's really small, called the FanMu. I'll let you take the lead on this because you love your e-readers.
Well, it's just really weird that we spoke on the last show or the show before about this phone-size e-reader, and now someone's dreamt up this even smaller one, and I'm just wondering what the use case of it is going to be, really. They're selling the idea on the back of the fact that it's so small you can put it in your pocket and forget about it. The battery lasts forever. The screen resolution is really poor. So the primary thing that you might think that you might want to use it for, like reading books, I think would be the last thing. I think you're more likely to use it like an iPod, and they do actually liken the look of it to an iPod Classic, although it's not. Sorry, an iPod Touch. Although it's I guess it's got the capability of listening to audiobooks. It's got a micro SD card to put into it as well. You've got a headphone socket as well, and a microphone. Who knows what they could do with this? The point is that it's again, CES probably pushing boundaries and seeing what can be done. Slightly differently though, this is actually for sale. It's $150, and you can actually buy it now, and get going with it. I just can't see this selling. Can you?
I can only think of one use case scenario that this would be handy. Mm-hmm. Cheating in an exam.
Yeah.
You could load all your information in this. It's small enough to be able to take in.
Or or perhaps for a child reading a book. They're really small with small hands.
Well, I suppose it's worth pointing out the actual size of it. It's maybe about the size of a deck of cards, but, you know, a lot thinner, like kind of credit card size, but a bit fatter. That kind of caper. That's what we're talking about. Maybe a wee bit bigger than a credit card. Yeah. But no, I think it's kind of useful. Prisoners could secrete it upon themselves and take it in. You could fill it full of survivalist books and then be able to go and live in the wild and not have to worry about things.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say how long the battery lasts, does it? But yes, it does. It says that the company is saying it should last a week or so. But it depends what you do with it, doesn't it? As always with batteries.
You can charge it off a solar panel or something like that.
Yeah. And it can only read. You can only put TXT files on it as well. That's the other thing. So you can't use EPUB or any other format. It's TXT only. It is really, really limited. I think someone, if it wasn't actually for sale, you'd think someone is just kind of having a go with this and putting it together and seeing what happens. But it is actually for sale.
Yeah, even looking at the one that's in the person's hand, I was thinking that this person's cobbled it together in their shed.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't pay $150.
No.
Moving on to something that would be worth purchasing is Samsung's new concept monitor, which is a very, very thin screen that can daisy chain together without the need for cables. But Samsung do seem to be a bit sketchy on all of the details at the moment about how actually it works and how you daisy chain together, but it's not taking existing screens, which I initially thought it was, and being able to daisy chain them. This is a genuine and a completely different standalone screen that probably has some sort of special Wi-Fi built into it that allows you to connect it together. No.
It's got pogo pins. So you put one next to the next one, and it's got pogo pins, and they just kind of magnetise to each other.
But you can disconnect them, I believe, and you could have them scattered around the room.
You could, yeah.
But they still connect to the same signal.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay. All right. So it does two things then. My question, though, was how does that work with Windows, for example, where you've got... does Windows have a limit on how many monitors you can put on the system, or does it not?
I actually think it does, yeah. I think something's telling me it's 6, but someone can quite easily correct me because that was years ago. But yeah, I think it's the limit of the graphics card that you have as well, because it has to render each screen.
But if you pogo pin magnetise them together, then Windows might think that whatever's joined together is one screen, a big wide one. But I don't know. Interesting idea. It's called the Link, apparently. The Link.
Yes, okay, because they've used everything else. The Link. Okay, right, cool. Yes, It is good looking. I'm quite excited by the idea of not actually having wires to connect cable or monitors together and things like that. That'd be great, but I guess it's not quite what we're hoping for or expecting. But then there's the Rabbit R1, which I started watching the keynote of, and I got really quite not confused, but I started wondering, is there any point to this device? Ted, this is an AI-powered mobile device that is designed to be as easy as possible to use, having everything that you need to use it. I don't know what it's for. No, I'm not. Ted, tell me what is the Rabbit R1?
Well, if you watch the presentation by the bloke that invented it, I'll link to that in the show notes. It's a 23-minute YouTube video. Then he describes it as a companion device, not a replacement device, but a companion device. And he goes through lots of routines of demonstrating what you can do with it, talking to it, using the AI, which they provide. It's their own provided AI. Unlike Samsung and everyone else, they're not going to be charging for their AI somewhere down the line. He says this will be free. Yeah. And it's a standalone device that you can use from your pocket alongside your phone, he says. But looking at the things that he was doing with it, I was thinking to myself, well, actually, all of those things that you demonstrated, you could do with your phone if you've got AI-powered stuff going on with it. But I think the idea was that this is simple, it's compact, it's something that you just kind of pull out your pocket. It also, he says that their version of AI goes further than everyone else's. Well, of course he would. and it gets contextual awareness stuff going on, and it books. He was talking about he compared booking a holiday and demonstrating all the ways in which you could do that with, say, Google and their AI, and how different it was. It's, for someone that's got 23 minutes to spare to watch the video, it is quite interesting. It's an interesting idea, but I just don't kind of see it going anywhere, frankly. It's $199 to buy this device, and it looks like a fun toy to me, and I'm not sure that it's got anything more than being, fun toy status. So, yes, have a look at the video.
I did. I managed about 5 minutes and then gave up because it's a 25-minute long video. And I just thought, no, to be honest, this is going to be something that comes and goes in the night.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Is it the future, would you say? Would you see this going any further?
No, I don't think so. Except for people that have got pots of money. It's a cute pocket device, a bit like the e-ink reader that we just looked at. It's actually, it's a gimmick. It's a cute pocket device. They are claiming that their AI is better thought out than everyone else's, but that will change over time. But it is a dedicated single device that you plug into all your services, and you don't need to use your phone to use it, kind of thing. Interesting to see what happens, certainly.
Yeah, and also I do the idea of the AI being free and subscriptionless. Whenever we've already heard that Samsung are entertaining the idea of charging for their AI in years to come. Yeah. Once they get people on board with using
2025.
They will either have to do that, or they will be put out of business by the bigger companies that are charging subscription. They won't be able to provide it for free.
Yeah, well, he says not, so we shall see.
All right, well, yes, anything to get a bit more investment in the company, I suppose. Or not. Perhaps they are absolutely the best company that we could ever imagine. One thing that I did actually happen to see on one of the CES videos was Lenovo's new ThinkBook. That's half Windows laptop and half Android tablet. And this was a peculiar mix that I think was a wee bit limited by the hardware that they've put together in the device. But it looked like a fairly potentially interesting device that could float. I think it's you can. I didn't quite get how it flipped so easily from Windows to Android, but whenever you pull the tablet off, it can turn into an Android tablet that you can take with you, and then whenever you dock it with the keyboard, it can turn into a Windows laptop. It's all about the power, I think.
But it has got
side of it.
But it has got a switch. So if you want to use the keyboard and the trackpad with Android on attached, you can press a button to make that happen. You're quite right. Routinely, it would turn into Windows, but if you want to stick on Android, you can.
But it's having those two operating systems running on it at the same time, which is a bit of it's going to be very demanding, especially on the Windows side of things, if Android's eating into the resources, because they would have to share resources. But what they are saying is that the majority of it, the Windows 11 side has an Intel Core Ultra 7 processor with Intel Arc GPU and 32 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD. Then the Android side of it has a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, all inside the one thing. Now that sounds like it's either A, going to overheat and erupt into flames whenever you're doing intensive stuff on both, or they're not going to be able to run at the same time, so one will have to go into hybrid mode, or hibernate mode, whilst the other's being used for heat reasons. But the video that I watched, the fellow that was having a play with it felt that it was a wee bit sluggish. that both sides of it weren't running terribly well. And he didn't go into details of what the actual specifications were, so this is the first time I've actually noted that it's the Ultra 7 processor that's in there with an Arc GPU. So it does sound like it would be able to handle most things. It is technically pretty good, as is the Android side of stuff, but for what he was experiencing, it certainly needs a lot more optimization before it can arrive on storefronts. What did you take away from it, Kev?
So what if I understand this right, what you can't do is take the screen away and continue to use it as Windows. If you take the screen away, you're immediately into Android, and that's it. However, if you put it back on, as I said just now, you can choose to use it as Android with the keyboard and the trackpad. So all the brains of the Android must be behind the screen, and it, for all intents and purposes, it looks like an Android tablet.
Okay.
All the workings of that must be in there because it works when it's off of base. And all the Windows, Microsoft stuff and whatever else is inside the keyboard for when you put it down. But yeah, and you can't use it with Windows as a tablet. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure that it's got leg for it. I mean, I wonder who would want to suddenly change their Windows laptop into an Android tablet. I don't quite get why you'd want to.
Especially in that you can get environments where you can run Android in your PC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you can run virtual machines, or you can run Google Play Games Beta and things like that. You know, it's a weird one. I really do think it's peculiar. There is the second image in this article on 9 to 5 Google does show how you can have the tablet sitting on the table beside you, whereas the person's got a monitor plugged into the keyboard unit.
Yeah.
So you can have two computers going at the same time and then flick them together and take them with you and be able to use them both on the go. But it's just... I don't see it being a big hit in any way. It's just maybe a proof of concept to see, if you throw enough shit at something, does it stick? And someone might buy it, and Nova will go, "Hey, we're on to something here."
And as Lenovo are involved, of course, it arrives on Android 13. Anyone else doing this would be arriving on Android 14 now, wouldn't it? But oh no, not Lenovo. It'll probably never get updated. And that's a good point, actually, because if Lenovo are crap at updating the Android tablet side of it, you'll then be stuck with an out-of-date Android tablet and an up-to-date Windows other bit, and the Android tablet becomes useless in time.
And also, I think one of the big criticisms that's going to come is that you're not able to use Windows tablet mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they have put effort into making a tablet mode, and this completely ignores it.
Exactly. What a load of bollocks.
Unless maybe you can't even, looking at the way that it's not a 360 device, so you can't turn the tablet round or put the tablet on the other way round or something like that and fold it back. Or could you? Could you turn the tablet 180 degrees, set it down, then fold it back on the keyboard, and it could work in Android tablet mode or Windows tablet mode?
We'll need to buy one, won't we?
Yes.
To find out.
It looks like it's got quad speakers as well, which is kind of nice. Or maybe that's actually vents, for heat, possibly. Anyway. Right, moving on. Infinix has brought wireless charging technology. This is it can charge your devices 8 inches away from the main unit, which is something we've been seeing more and more over the years. I remember talking about it a couple of years ago, where they were looking to put this kind of technology into train stations, where you could walk into the room and your device would charge. This
Motorola, wasn't it? Was it Motorola?
It could have been, yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
This is a smaller item that allows you to do that on a desk or something like that, and maybe IKEA could build it into their desks, and then you can just leave your phone anywhere on the desk and it'll gradually start to charge. That's pretty awesome. But I've never heard of Infinix. Have you?
Yeah, Infinix is a Chinese brand. They make some phones, but they never make it across to the West. But yeah, what they're selling this on the back of is they're saying, if you've got this lump of a thing on your desk in front of you, you can, as long as you keep the phone within 8 inches of the lump, you can continue to use it wirelessly, no cable, and it will. I think I think they're going for gamers. They're saying you can carry on doing your gaming, just hold it above this thing, and it will charge while they're doing it. But I don't know, it's a bit of a lump, isn't it? I think they need to make it smaller, surely.
Yeah. Xiaomi had something like this as well. I think that they were toying with.
That's right.
But it never quite arrived. What ever happened to that? But this is obviously a thing that's going to happen in the future. Yeah. Which isn't here yet. JBL. We're back in JBL territory. They're debuting a couple of new microphones, including a wireless clip-on one, which is kind of cool. I like the look of that, actually.
I like the look of the one on the left. That kind of the one on a stand. That's a
like a omnidirectional type one.
Yeah,
or shotgun mic.
Shotgun. Yeah, it's a shot. That's the word. It's a shotgun on a stand. And it looks like it might actually be quite good for podcasting, but it might be crap. The one that they've got the money on, that with the best features, is the one on the right, which is obviously the more lumpy one that's got more space to work. But they do say that they've got the stand is got some sort of clever stuff going on it with shock absorbent stuff in the stand, so you can put it on a desk and it won't kind of rattle around. That other bit at the bottom, the wireless stuff, that looks like they're just taking on Rode and that thing that you wanted to buy that Anchor brought out. Yeah, I think
they wouldn't ship to me, the bastard.
No,
sorry.
I think they're after that market for that wireless bit. But yeah, JBL along with the replaceable batteries and speakers, they seem to be doing quite a bit lately, don't they?
Well, JBL doesn't strike me as a name for microphones, which I think is quite interesting. I'm actually on their website now to see if they have any other microphones, and they don't.
No, this is their first foray.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I do wonder when we'll get that, because I really do want a wireless microphone like that, like Anchor were going to do. Yeah, or
they did do. They did do, but they ripped you off because what was it? You were going to get a special price, weren't you?
Yeah, I backed the Kickstarter or whatever it was, or the Indiegogo, and then they wouldn't ship it to me because it was Northern Ireland. They wouldn't ship it across to Northern Ireland.
Oh, was that?
They took my money.
They took your money. That's right.
Bastard.
Oh dear. Anyway, so JBL arrived with microphones. Interesting to see if they're any good or not.
Through. It's a nice looking little microphone and a wee case as well. Yeah. Cool. Watch this space. Right, next up, we're moving into the Wearables Watch. And we're going to start off with the Casio G-Shock. The toughest smartwatch ever made. And I think is that Mars? No, it's Arizona or somewhere like that.
I put this in especially for you. I knew you'd like this.
Oh, yeah, I love this. I do have a thing for indestructible digital watches. And I've had a few G-Shocks in my life. This looks pretty darn good. It's got all kinds of internal features, such as there's a heart rate sensor built into it, and those sorts of sensors. It also it's mud resistant and water resistant, and I did see there was a rating here, wasn't there, for dust and water, or was it this article? Maybe it was another article.
I'm sure there is. It's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's quite high as well, where it'll take stuff on. It's got a nice little graph on the display that shows your steps and things like that over the course of the week. I thought was quite interesting. So it kind of shows your fitness level for the week, and you can keep an idea on how well you're doing. There's a battery option down at the bottom that would make you think this is rechargeable. I didn't actually notice
Is it not
that.
rechargeable?
Well, I think it is, yeah, but it doesn't work off a standard watch battery.
Oh, okay. So what is it,
I hadn't thought about
USB-C?
that at all.
The USB-C? Is USB-C mentioned?
I'm going to the website now.
The price is
It's not
mentioned.
opening now.
You don't want to look at that.
Yeah, it's 450 quid, which seems a bit extreme for an extreme watch. And I can't open the redirect that they have on the webpage on this computer because of my
It doesn't say about rechargeable. I don't understand.
blockers.
But where is it? And there's nothing about the battery, is there?
I'm on the UK website now, looking for
Critical
it.
stuff. That's critical. We must find out.
It's not on the UK website. The sort of thing that we usually have sorted out beforehand.
It does.
But this week we've failed.
It does look, to be honest, I have to say, that you'd expect to see it on the wrist of a 12-year-old boy. Well, back in the day, you would. In the 1970s and 80s, they would just love having this on their wrist. I can't think of anything more ugly and ridiculous to have on my wrist, and I would never wear it. But, yeah, I mean, if you were out there mountaineering or something, it would be different, I suppose. You'd want it to be shock resistant and everything resistant and dust and rain and do all those things that, you know, all those useful features like altimeter, and all that stuff. But yeah, you wouldn't wear one of these to work, would you?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I wouldn't wear the yellow one. I'd go for the black one.
Right.
But I have found out that it has solar-assisted charging. So that it must be the screen is actually a solar panel.
Oh, right.
And it basically works off that. And they say it's stable solar power, so it'll gradually charge itself. But if you need to top it up, there are pogo pins on the back, and you hook it up to just a little charger that you have that comes with it. And then you can charge it overnight if you need to. But from the sounds of it, from their description here, it should be able to survive off solar all of the time, unless you're in the dark for a long period of time, or you're in Alaska in permanent midnight.
I'm usually in the dark with most things.
But yeah, $500 though. I don't know. The extremists can have this. Hopefully, they'll just release some of the tech into a more palatable device that doesn't cost quite so much and is more routine in the daily lifestyle.
Indeed.
Oh.
Interesting to see the name's still going though. Casio. They're still plugging away there. I think they're Japanese, aren't they? And yeah, plugging away there, still going all these years later. So good for them.
I'm just thinking, my son doesn't have a watch. Maybe I'll have to get him a wee Casio and get him on the bandwagon. Because I've got my G-Shock. Maybe he should have one as well. Yeah. And he'd have to learn to tell the time. Mm-hmm. Right. He's only 11. Right. We're going back to the Ring thing because Amazfit have beaten Galaxy Ring to the market with their Helio Ring, which I've been watching for all mankind, and that's Helios, but Helio Ring. This is Amazfit are really making a name for themselves. They sound like something you'd find in Poundland or something like that, but they're actually really delivering good quality hardware and continuing to put out things that people want. So well done to them for defying the odds with the company title of Amazfit. But this is a little ring that can measure various different statistics, such as your heart rate, blood oxygen, and stress levels. It's got sleep tracking, athletic recovery stats, and readiness that considers your sleep quality and your physical dexterity to tell you whether or not you should push the limits or take it easy. And I think we're all hoping that it'll just say, take it easy today. sit down with a cup of tea and watch some TV.
This it's interesting when you look at their own website, which I've linked to in the show notes as well, that it's clearly created for elite athletes, inverted commas. So this is not for the likes of me and you. Well, I don't know, you might be an elite athlete, but they've I somehow doubt it. They've marked their. You see, Samsung's Ring will be just pushed out to be appealing to everyone. They want to sell a ring to every single Samsung user in the world, and even non-Samsung users. Whereas this one seems to be just saying, well, this is for elite athletes. So if you're not an elite athlete, then don't bother even looking at it. The other thing that I wanted to question was about the sizing. How they know that it's going to fit your fat finger or your thin finger or your wide finger. And apparently this Amazfit ring, Helio ring, is going to be produced in two sizes, size 10 and size 12, whatever that means. But it did take me back to thinking about the Samsung Galaxy as well, what they're going to do with their ring, and how they're going to allow resizing of it. I got a feeling we spoke about this before, and it looked like there was some clever mechanism in it that pushed it out or let it come in, wasn't there?
I don't know. I'm thinking of those, those spiky things that you get that you measure ring sizes on.
Yeah.
Whenever you're getting married, you get one and they put a ring on and it tells you what size your finger is.
Yeah.
And how they've, are they not opening themselves up to all kinds of slander because they only covered two ring sizes, which is, I don't know, fattest or something like that, or sizest, ring sizest. Or
worse still, male and female.
Oh, yeah, true. You can get away with that with a watch because, watch straps are adjustable and the size of the watch face makes sense. But whenever it comes to a ring, generally, I suppose the people who require fitness would probably have bigger fingers. Am I right in saying that?
Possibly. If it's all muscle.
The people who are constantly keeping fit will have smaller fingers. Maybe.
Don't know. But I do remember us looking at this before, and I had a feeling there was, like when you push the inside out, it bounced out and bounced back, so it would fit different size fingers. But I can't remember what device that was and how long ago it was. But it obviously isn't this one.
Well, obviously they've done something in the past to allow this, because we have spoken at length about Aidan Bell's ring frequently, and how he uses it, and his is for making purchases.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I'm not seeing terribly many reports about, whether or not this will have
NFC.
Yeah, NFC to be able to make purchases in shops. So if you want to run in and get yourself a Gatorade or some sort of health shake, whether or not you can use this on the go.
Samsung will do that.
Samsung will, but that means you have to have your phone with you or a watch that connects to, so it can make that purchase.
No, it might be Wi-Fi as well. I mean, it might be cellular as well. I don't know. We'll have to see, won't we?
That's a lot to pack into the ring.
It is, yeah.
All right, well, moving on quickly before we get bogged down.
Blown away.
Okay, the Skyted mask makes you quiet enough to take calls in a library. This is a mask that you can place over your face, and it's got a bit of Bluetooth built into it that allows you to be able to connect to your phone or your laptop to have chats, and you can actually talk about sensitive information with your doctor via the thing. So you could sit on the train and not have to worry about who's eavesdropping in your call, which is, I suppose, kind of good. I'm wondering, I didn't actually look to see whether or not, being a mask, does it have sort of basic health stuff built into it that can filter out microbes and stuff like that fly about, could you use it on your motorcycle and zip about town whilst having a chinwag with someone? Did you pick that up at all?
I watched the video, and it. Firstly, I would say it just looks absurd. I can't believe that any businessman, as depicted in the video, is going to be sitting in a cafe with this thing strapped to their face, or on a train even. Well, a train maybe a bit more so, but just in order so that people couldn't overhear them. The other thing is that they were making clear on the video was that that this doesn't obliterate all noise. So if you put this on your face and you start shouting or singing or screaming, then a person next to you will hear it. But speaking at normal volumes, I think they said it reduces by 25 decibels, doesn't it? Yeah, 25 decibels, it brings it down. So someone sat next to you, if you're talking normally, won't be able to hear what you're saying. But I think that the thing just looks absurd, and I can't believe that anyone in public, particularly, is going to have this on their face any more than they are a stupid VR mask or something, outside of gaming or doing something very specific. And before I finish warbling on, you see that picture on the Engadget website there of the bloke they've chosen to represent Skyted.
Yes.
He looks like something out of Family Guy, doesn't he? I mean, if you...
Oh, are you expecting a suit and
yeah, I guess so.
Hair?
Yeah, I guess so. But someone that, and he looks really like he's looking at the camera really oddly, as if they've caught him at a really bad moment as well. Poor bloke. Anyway, yes, I think this is all very silly.
Yeah. Well, I do see... I see the point in it, but I've got a funny feeling that you're going to see someone walking along with one of these on, having a conversation, and they'll have their phone up in front of them with the phone call on speaker, so that they can hear...
Yeah.
You'll hear one side of the conversation and not what the other person's saying.
I see what you mean, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. You've got to hit... Oh, you'd have to have an earpiece in, wouldn't you? Yeah. I'm thinking it through now.
Well, I think there is a cable coming off the side of it which has an audio adapter, so I think there is some form of earpiece. Unless, I suppose that might be a microphone that they're using to test, because the picture of Cherlin, who is modelling the device, has a cable that is coming down and into something else. So, that's probably a microphone that is measuring the decibels that are being given off or something on the outside of... I don't know.
No.
Yeah, you've got to be able to hear the phone call as well, so
yes,
you need headphones.
I hadn't thought of that.
All right, moving into the next section, which is interactively titled Phone Zone. We don't have very much phone stuff here at all, despite CES, but there's not terribly many phones other than Samsung that have been announced at CES. But one thing that you did pick up on was the new version of Samsung's One UI 6.0 is turning some Samsung phones yellow. Their screens yellow. What's going on there?
This was picked up by one of the members of the MeWe group, actually, so thank you for that. And it turned out after they had raised it in our group, lots of other people were complaining about the same thing. And apparently, it appears that the issue is due to a conflict between Android's built-in night light feature and Samsung's own Eye Comfort Shield feature. Samsung's technical support informed users that a fix for the issue would be arriving in the coming days, depending on where you live, but it'll come eventually. But until a permanent fix has arrived, you can fix it yourself. And I'll put a link in the show notes to a solution, which is a step-through solution published on the Sam Mobile website, step by step, and it involves the installation of Nova Launcher, and then going into Nova Launcher settings and making widgets and blah blah blah, and then changing kind of things. It's almost like you need to be a bit of a nerd to do this, but then most people that are bothered by it probably will be nerds. And then when you've done all that, you can then carry on using the phone as normal, and the yellow thing goes away. But otherwise, just wait for Samsung to fix it, which will come along soon.
Yeah, it's a bit of a peculiar thing to come along, but then, because they're developing these two utilities, there's obviously going to be conflicts, and we've already seen conflicts where things like this have happened in the past with other services that have been provided by both Google on Android and then Samsung doing their own version. Kind of wonder why Samsung bother sometimes. I did see another one quite recently. I was on Reddit having a look at the Samsung Galaxy stuff, and I noticed that someone had a download for an update that was looking to change their One UI back to version 4.
Oh, right.
From version 5.3 or something like that, instead of version 6. Which I thought was a bit peculiar, but I can't find it now. So
they must have had They must have had a reason, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think it was probably 5.1.1, wasn't it?
It was, but it was 4.1, or it was 4.0 actually.
Yeah, that's what they
Bizarre.
wanted to go to. Yeah, odd.
All right, moving on to something really cool. In the name of the game, we're going to talk about this. Oh, I'm dead excited about this. There is a new mini console coming out, and it's for a classic computer.
Another one.
Oh, yeah. Atari are going to be doing the 400 Mini, which is based off of the Atari 400. I don't know too many people that had an Atari 400. I certainly didn't. However, the 400, the 500, the 700, and the 800 were all a series of home computers that people could buy. They were 8-bit computers, and they were notably better than some of the competition, but they just didn't do terribly well. I almost bought the 800 XS, I think it was, on auction one day. It was like 20 quid, and I thought, nah, I'm not spend 20 quid on it. I regret that ever since, because it was just a really good 8-bit computer, and it had some real classic games on it. Atari, well, did games very well, I hear, aside from my E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was a bit crap. But they did do some genuinely good hardware stuff for games back in the 80s, and they were somewhat forgotten about whenever the big gaming war came along between, say, Nintendo and Sega, and then you've got Spectrum, Amstrad, and Commodore. Atari just never quite managed to pop in there, but their hardware was very much up to snuff, and they had some cracker titles that were available. And looking at the 400 Mini, they've announced some of the titles, but not all of them. But two of the titles have got me absolutely on board because they are terrific. If you look at the 400, you might recognise it. Ted, do you recognise it at all? Have you ever seen that before?
No, I'm afraid not.
Oh, okay. Well, it's one of those kind of almost classic, iconic designs, and it comes with the classic, iconic Atari joystick as well.
I recognise that. But
Yes,
but that's probably been with another machine, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the 5200, the 7800, and the 2600. The old Woody console is well known for this, so the one-button controller.
Yeah.
But they've listed that it's going to have built into it Berserk, which is an absolutely cracker arcade game. Lee, which was originally released as Bruce Lee, and it's one of the best platformers, I think, on all systems. It's a really good platformer, that, but they had to change it for obvious reasons because they couldn't call it Bruce Lee. Millipede, which is a bit of a classic. Miner 2049er, which I don't know that I've played it, but if memory serves, it's a wee bit more like Chucky Egg than it is Manic Miner. It's nothing to do with Manic Miner. Mule, and the iconic Star Raiders. But it's Star Raiders 2 that they're putting on here, which I haven't played, but I loved the original Star Raiders. It was an absolutely fantastic space shoot-'em-up game. So I'm absolutely on board for this. It's going to have high-definition output of 720 at 50 frames per second. 50 hertz or 60 hertz. It's going to have 5 USB ports, which means you can have multiplayer going on. You can plug in a couple of different joysticks, gamepads, USB sticks, and even a keyboard despite the fact there is a keyboard on the front. But like the Amiga that we saw recently, the Amiga Mini, it's a non-functioning keyboard because this is a mini console. You can save your progress as you're playing the game. You can display the frame rate at which it's running, and also it has attractive frames as well, which you can put around the border because these are going to be 4x5 games, not widescreen games. It'll have 25 games built into it. Not all of them have been confirmed yet, but they generally have a sort of mix of the iconic games plus some of the more forgotten titles that didn't do quite so well. There's a rewind mode that I think we've seen on Xbox consoles recently. I remember playing Burnout, that you could, whenever you did something, you'd press one of the buttons and you could rewind back to just before you did something. So if making those difficult jumps in Miner 49er, 2049er, you'll be able to, if you miss, you'll be able to rewind a couple of seconds and then play again.
I've never heard of that
Nukem had Duke Nukem had it in the recent release of Duke Nukem 3D. You can load your own stuff on as well, which is crucial. This is a really big thing, and they did this with the Amiga Mini. You can load the entire archive of Atari games, if you own it, onto the device and be able to play everything that was ever made if you've got a USB stick that is, I don't know, 256 gigabytes or megabytes, because it's not going to be a particularly large stick that you need to be able to put on all of the games from the Atari history. And yeah, it's compatible with various different USB game controllers as well, so you don't have to rely on buying the expensive hardware that comes out. You'll get a joystick with it, but if you want other people to play with you, you can just plug in any USB controllers that you happen to have knocking about. Most of them should work. Having a quick look down, you can purchase the joystick and the gamepad. That gamepad is the one that came with the Amiga, because it looks very much like the CD32 gamepad, so that's going to be compatible with it. But otherwise, I think this is an absolute doozy. I can't wait. I'm having one of these. Ted, are you?
It certainly looks quite interesting. I'm a bit concerned about the 720p output, but then I suppose the games that it's going to be going for are not going to be high definition games anyway, are they? They're going to be retro games. No. So I suppose that doesn't really matter. If I plug this into my 1080p TV, I suppose it will just work it out for itself, will it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Amiga Mini is 720p, I believe, okay. And you wouldn't notice anything about it at all because all the games you play are designed at 320 by 240, if anything.
Right, okay. The rewind mode that I leapt in on there, I was just thinking that is, I've never heard of that before in gaming, and that would have been really useful when I was trying to beat Super Mario World on Nintendo. In the end, I found this cheat, which I didn't employ until I'd finished it, but I went back and tested it, and it was quite good. And it gave you 100 lives. So, in fact, there was one that did unlimited lives. And in order to get it, you had to do this really, really complicated button press sequence on the controller. But that was, if someone's really stuck on a game, that's really handy. And having a rewind mode, similarly, you're quite right. People can get past the frustrating bits if they don't want to press on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess some of these games are available on Evercade already, or are they all unique?
I can't remember what's on the arcade or the Atari collections. There, they could well be. Yeah. I don't think Berserk is. I think this is the first time I've seen Berserk on one of these home consoles. There's a wee bit of a more expanded list here, but they haven't confirmed all the games that are going to be on it. There's Berserk, there's Boulder Dash, which I'm sure you know. Capture the Flag, Lee Millipede from
I know Millipede, yeah.
Missile Command, which is a Atari classic, that's on Evercade. Mm-hmm. Mule, Star Raiders 2, and Yump. I don't know that game at all. It's going to retail for £99.99, which I think is a pretty fine price actually for this. But I think that was what the Amiga was, and it comes with the joystick as well. And it's available to pre-order now on Amazon.
Here's the Atari Arcade 1 on Evercade, Asteroids, Canyon Bomber, Centipede, Crystal Castles, Liberator, Lunar Lander, Millipede, Missile Command, Night Driver, Pong, Skydiver, Super Breakout, and Warlords.
Where are you seeing that?
On the Evercade website.
Oh, right, okay, sorry, yes, okay, gotcha. I'm having a look at some of the pre-ordering websites to see if they're able to list any other games that aren't listed there, but I don't think they are. I don't think anything else has been announced just yet. But what they do is it's not launching until April, and they'll kind of drip feed some of the games to keep people excited by what they're going to be getting. I've pre-ordered mine off Amazon. It's just the easiest way to get it, being in Northern Ireland.
The big question, does it include Malibu Bikini Volleyball?
I don't know, but whenever it comes to those kind of pervy games on 8-bit retro consoles, I wouldn't get your hopes up on how good things are going to be. Indeed. You might be better off just going to the aforementioned Pornhub.
Enough.
With your smell-o-vision.
Yes.
All right.
Have you ordered
next
it?
Up?
Have you pre-ordered it?
I have pre-ordered it.
Yeah, okay. Well, look forward to hearing.
I'm a sucker for those types of... I couldn't give a damn about Mega Drive Minis and Super Nintendo Minis, but whenever it comes to the computer Minis, I didn't get the Commodore 64 one because I just didn't. I did see it had dropped in price, but I bought the Amiga one and I absolutely adore it, and I've got it beside my Evercade, and I think this'll sit beside it again.
What, because it looks like the console more so?
Yeah. I think it. Yeah, I just really like them, and because it's the open-ended one, that must be it. That's why I don't like the Super Nintendos and things like that, because you are locked to the games that come with it.
Right.
The Amiga one, everything that I own on Amiga, I've been able to put onto that console because I have a collection of Amiga games. This Atari one, I'll be able to do that too. So I'll be able to play the games that I own. Right. Next up is the MSI Claw, which is a new Steam Deck rival. MSI are getting in on the game because it's a games console. And they showed it off at CES. It's very much like the Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo's Legion Go. Inside of it, we've got an Intel Core 7 Ultra, Ultra 7 155H, which is a catchy title. And it's got integrated ARC graphics on the GPU. That's Intel ARC again. They seem to be really pushing out the ARC structure. We've got the Steam Deck has AMD, I believe, and I think ROG has, I can't remember, but well, this has an Intel GPU instead, as opposed to NVIDIA and AMD. It also has a bigger battery than the Steam Deck. They say it's going to promise 2 hours of battery life under full workload conditions, but I don't think they've actually said what it's going to be. Just having a look through 2 different articles here, and I don't see a list of the battery specs. It's got a 1920 by 1080 IPS display, which is a 7-inch screen that runs up to 120 hertz, and it's because the Steam Deck's 90 hertz, I'm pretty sure. So this has a smoother screen. There's no price announced at the moment, but it certainly looks to be a bit of a contender. Ted, would this be on your radar at all, or are you going to wait for the Steam Deck, Lenovo, or ROG one day?
Nintendo is for me, as you well know. But yeah,
Right.
if I was really into gaming, which I'm not really, all the gaming stuff I've got here has always been on the back of you encouraging me. And the truth is that it sits there and I don't use it. I'm just not particularly into gaming very much. Anyway, as it goes, it looks really nicely made. It looks like it will fit in the hands nicely. It looks like a Steam clone, doesn't it? Really, the buttons, the ABXY buttons, look as though they're nicely placed. Unlike that last thing we spoke about, where I thought that the joystick was in the way of them. So that looks pretty good, and it looks like it's kind of pretty solidly made plastic as well. And a nice big screen. So I can see that why it might be attractive to people. It depends how much it is, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Given that the other sort of debut, well, aside from the Steam Deck is a lot cheaper than the rest of them. But the Asus and the Lenovo, I think they start at about £600. So I imagine this will be in there as well. I don't imagine they'll be able to get this down to compete with the Steam Deck directly. It'll just have to be another alternative option for people. I quite like MSI. I do have a bunch of MSI bits of hardware knocking about, and they've always pushed their military grade quality that they seem to be all about. So it's good to have another option.
Indeed, my monitor's an MSI. Can't say
so's mine, actually.
Can't say that it looks like it's military grade, but it certainly works okay.
Well, maybe they do use it out in Afghanistan or somewhere like that.
Indeed.
Possibly. No, they're not there anymore. They left. That's right.
Oh,
Oops.
right.
Okay, Samsung are getting serious about gaming peripherals, and they're going to be bringing out a controller that doesn't look a million miles away from an Xbox controller, but they're doing it. And it's going to work with their Samsung Gaming Hub that they've announced as well. What can you tell us about this gaming controller?
Nothing really. You said it all. It's a clone of the Xbox wireless controller, and Samsung are jumping on the bandwagon. We said, I think in the last show, that it looked like Samsung were getting serious about gaming, and this is the next move towards that. The Samsung Gaming Hub is the thing that everyone that's into gaming is going to be using on their phones and whatever else, other devices they've got, tablets and whatever, and that'll be a good addition to it. And, you know, I'm sure that Samsung, being Samsung, will make sure it works perfectly well right out of the box. And, you know, I'm assuming that it's wired as well as Bluetooth, but there's not many details really, is there? But, yeah, a clone.
It's a controller. I don't think there's too much more they can do with a controller outside of redeveloping the wheel.
Indeed.
Redesigning the wheel. Reinventing the wheel. Yeah.
One of those.
All right. One new bit of hardware which is exciting quite a few people in certain areas of the internet, and should excite you as well, Ted, is the MIG switch. It's going to be a very difficult thing to get. Nintendo frequently declare war on these companies. It's essentially a game card that you put into your Nintendo Switch that takes an SD card, and you can load that full of games. Yes, those sorts of games.
What, beach volleyball?
No, games that you may not have actually purchased.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see what you mean. Sorry, yeah.
And you can get from the darkest corners of the internet.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that I think they've actually managed to do this on the Switch, in such an easy, tight, and nice format, where you just plug it in and it works. On various different versions of the firmware. If you update your Switch, then it'll probably download some sort of patch that stops this from working. Yes. But yeah, if you're tired of playing the very, very expensive Nintendo prices, you might be able to do this instead. In saying that, the device itself isn't the cheapest. The cheapest version of it is £70. But you can also buy for £65 the Switch, the MIG Switch dumper that I believe you put your owned cartridge into, and then you can copy it across to your other cartridge. because there is a need to do that, I suppose. To be able to back up your games so that you can play it on these. But 70 quid for a little card that you put an SD card into that allows you to play all of the games that you could ever possibly want legally is pretty good, isn't it, Ted?
You'd also need to know what you're doing, though. And I use myself as an example here. No one's ever shown me how to do this darker side of doing this kind of thing, and I would need to go and teach myself, train myself. I wonder. You see, the Nintendo Switches are generally sold out to not to nerds and geeks that are likely to be into this. I think that they tend to be more sold out to Japanese teenagers who want to play, fluffy bunny games and stuff. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe time has changed, and the average user of a Nintendo Switch is different to what it used to be. But yeah, I just can't imagine kids, for example, knowing how to do this. Mind you, kids are probably the ones that do know how to do it, aren't they?
Well, you see, I think whenever you have kids who want this game and that game, it kind of forces parents to have to take options like this because Nintendo games are tremendously expensive.
Sure.
I do remember years ago I bought the R4 card for my nephew who had a Nintendo DS of some description, 3DDS or something like that. I don't know what it was. But he wanted this game and this game and this game. And they were like 20 odd quid each. And he might not play them for very long. There was various different versions of Nintendo dogs being released as well, which had different breeds. And in order to get the different breeds, you'd have to buy a whole new game, which was 25 quid.
Yeah.
And they might only play it for a couple of weeks and then move on to the next game. So I can kind of understand a parent's need to be able to get something like this. There is in the show notes a link to a website called Notebook Check that covers the news article here, and they themselves link to the Alien Retro Gaming YouTube channel, and he has filmed a couple of videos on how to use these, and they are ridiculously simple, where you just get the game folder and drag it across to the SD card, retitle or ensure that it is titled correctly, and then stick it into the Nintendo Switch once it's finished copying, and that basically is it.
What were you just saying about until Nintendo block it, though? Is that likely to happen? They say like YouTube do with downloaders. Eventually, Nintendo will stop this working, will they, or not?
Well, yeah, they generally do new firmware updates.
In which case, you paid 70 quid for this, and it doesn't work anymore.
And then you have to wait for the people who make this card to release new firmware for the card that you copy onto it that circumvents that. Okay. And it's an ongoing battle that they have.
It's a rat game, isn't it?
It is, yes, but Sony are still doing it for the PSP and the Vita, where they're constantly pushing out new firmware that are only there for security purposes, to defeat these things,
right,
to stop people ripping off their games. Which it's not going to help the gaming industry by doing these sorts of things, but where you have a parent whose child is constantly going on about Nintendo dogs or buying the latest game, and you can't afford £70 for a new game on the Nintendo Switch, or God forbid they lose the cartridge. That's what's the big thing here. You can buy that thing, the distributor, because those cartridges for the Nintendo Switch are really easy to lose, but what you do is you back it up and then you can copy it onto this, and then the child can play it again. I know my son has a Switch. He has all of his games inside of a game case. I don't check them that frequently to see if they're all there, but it's quite easy for one of his friends to steal one, or for him to drop it down the back of a sofa, or for him to leave it in a hotel whenever we go somewhere, or drop it on the plane. Any of those sorts of things can happen.
He's well travelled.
Yeah, but these sorts of things can happen, and you lose the game, which you've shelled out up to about £70. The new Legend of Zelda game is about £70, and you lose the card, and you're done.
So you can just copy the contents of the card onto an SD card, can you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It backs up your games, and then you can take the actual game cartridge and put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it.
Talking of this topic, a year ago, exactly, we were talking about the fact that I had got my new Nintendo Switch Lite and signed up for the 12 months of open access online to all of the Nintendo stuff, Switch stuff. 35 quid it was on a special offer. Just this week they asked me to renew it, and I said no, because what I was saying just now is true. If I want to do any gaming, then I'm just not using those devices, and
Yeah.
so £35 a year is just a waste of money for me, and so I turned it down. But yeah, that's me. I mean, I know that you and your son and so many people are really into gaming. Fair enough.
Well, the only time he ever uses a Switch is whenever we go somewhere and he needs it in the car. And it's the backup to whenever his tablet runs out of juice.
Right.
That is the purpose of the Switch now.
Okay.
And those games are so damn expensive.
Yeah.
And then he'll be playing the game and going, I'm bored with this game, I want a new one. You're like, well, I'm not buying you one because it's 50 to £60. Well, we'll say 40 for the sake of the argument. 40 quid for a new game that he's going to play once or twice a year, maybe.
So you could do the £35 a year thing then, couldn't you? Because that would give him it whenever he wants it, but it would be half the price of one game.
I have paid that in the past for him to be able to play Nintendo Switch parties with some of his friends, and he's done that twice.
Right.
Because you can only play online if you pay it.
Obviously, he's the same as me.
Yeah. So I've abandoned the idea of the Nintendo Switch. If anything, I might get one of these for myself so I can go and play just maybe the more adult games on the Nintendo Switch. There's some good first-person shooters.
Oh, I see.
Oh, it's Nintendo. You don't get pervy games on them. Not Nintendo.
Well, I don't know, with your side-loading SD card shenanigans, what you might get on it.
What do you want, anyway? All right, well, we'll move on before you degrade me anymore. To flap your trap about an app. And we're going to start off with Wear OS has a new app that allows you to control your watch. Or not your watch, your mouse, sorry.
On any device you're using. There's a little video you can watch of this, of some bloke demonstrating it. And I can't imagine that I would want to use it for any purpose personally, but it is very clever, and it's free. It's on the Play Store. If you've got a watch, well, not a Pixel, it doesn't work with a Pixel watch. Apparently they're working on that. They're trying to make it work, but any other kind of Wear OS watch.
That's interesting, isn't it? Why?
Yeah. And we'll ask Malcolm Bryant about that. And you can see that he's moving his arm around, and it's just doing what you can do with an S Pen, basically. As a wand, your wrist is then able to point to wherever you want on the device you're using on the screen. And the clever bit is that it does what the Apple, what's it called, Vision thingy does, and it knows when you're pinching your fingers. So if you want to click on the screen, you pinch your fingers, and the watch knows that that's happened. And from looking at that video, it was working very, very reliably. You can also swipe by pinching and scrolling around. Very clever. It's worth having a look at the video. And yeah, it's available for everyone, well, except Pixel Watch owners at the moment.
Yeah.
Did you have a look at that video?
No, I haven't actually. I can see where it's loading, but it's not loading.
But it's only 1 minute long, but it's worth having a look at when you can get it loaded.
Yeah. It might be a good reason to get a smartwatch, although not a Pixel Watch.
No.
A good reason not to have a Pixel Watch.
They'll get that fixed eventually. I don't know why it doesn't work, but it does with everything else. Anyway, yeah, nice little app.
Curious. Next up, Chrome for Android is getting its own Listen to This Page, TTS. This is quite an interesting thing that allows you to, well, essentially read out. That's not quite read out loud, is it? It's more than that.
It's
okay.
It's like Google's reading mode. Have you had a play with Google's reading mode? I was
No.
When we had this story on the go, I gave it another go yesterday, and it's ever so good. It worked really well. You can choose what voices you want, and basically anything on your screen it will read out to you in a accessibility type way, and it puts a little shortcut on your desktop, and it just does it reads anything that you want it to read it to you. So it's very smart. The Google's reading mode, but this is slightly different. The listen to this page text-to-speech thingy works in Chrome, as I understand it, and it already works in some builds of Chrome OS on Chromebooks if you've got developer mode going and all the rest of it. But this is the first time that they're going to bake it into Chrome. And that's the difference. Chrome for Android. So on your Android phone, there will be, when this rolls out to everyone, in your 3-dot menu at the top right-hand corner, listen to this page. So whatever page you're on in Chrome, on your phone or your tablet, you'll be able to just go 3 dots, listen to this page, and it will give you a play button and start reading it to you. So yeah, I like this, and there are lots of ways of doing this. There are lots of extensions to Chrome that do it already, and this is not unique. It's just that Google are obviously getting on board and doing it themselves.
Yeah. I'm just investigating reading mode as well. I thought I had it installed.
I had it installed, but I wasn't using it, so I uninstalled it. You might have done that.
Maybe, yeah, or the way Google likes to go, oh, you haven't used this in 15 minutes, so let's...
Yes.
Google passkeys. Oh, right, okay. Right, yes, I'll have a go at that later on and see how we do.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go into the Google Gallows and Chrome Coroner section, where, Ted, you can tell us what's new in the world of Google and Chrome.
4 things. Chrome OS camera is set to borrow Pixel's super res zoom feature. So if you've got a Chromebook or Chrome tablet with a camera on the back side, you will be able to take a photograph with it if you feel the urge, and then it will use the super res zoom feature that is currently available on Pixel phones to basically let you take a fuzzy picture, and then by the software it will sharpen it up. So there's that for anyone else that might want to take a photograph with their tablet. The Lacrosse Chrome browser has vanished, according to Robbie, in Chrome Unboxed. I haven't seen this myself, but apparently it's gone. You'll remember the Lacrosse Chrome browser was the one that on Chromebooks in the developer builds they were pushing out to Chrome OS to separate it from the Chrome OS, so it became a standalone browser. And I had that working when I was testing it a couple of months ago, and apparently it's disappeared now, but there's every hope that it's coming back. That's just a temporary glitch. The third thing is that Google you probably have noticed by now that in Gmail, Google have enabled people to use Gmail like messaging and respond to people's email messages by doing an emoji. And some people don't like this at all, myself included. And there's an extension now available that gets rid of it, and it's called Gmojify. So,
catchy.
Link in the show notes. You can install that extension if you want to get rid of those. I didn't feel the urge or the need to do that badly enough, but I just ignore it. But it's there if you want it. And the last one is the Google Chat navigation design has now at last rolled out to, well, my Android devices, most of them actually, and that's available on the standalone Google Chat application, the app, and also in the chat inside Gmail. So whichever version you're using of chat, which I know nobody uses it apart from us, but there you go. It has actually arrived now, and you get a taskbar at the bottom. A control bar instead of it's a floating bar, which. No, sorry, it's not a floating bar at the moment. There is a floating bar option coming as the next stage. But it gives you a nicer material use style pill-shaped button front end to use Google Chat with. For those of us who use Google Chat, there it is. 4 items.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in that Google Chat one because I don't use it as much as I should, I think. And it's... Oh no, was it... Twitter was that one actually that said calling was coming to Twitter, wasn't it? Or X. Sorry, X. I think it's getting calling
I think it was.
and messaging that way. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe people will start ruling toward Google Chat.
I think it's highly unlikely, but there you go. I've got about a dozen people that I Google Chat with, and that's it. And like it always with these services, it's who's there that matters. And nobody I know, apart from that dozen people, use Google Chat or even know it exists. I don't think. So we'll see if Google can push it harder.
Maybe. Hopefully, they seem to have Google Chat around for a good while longer than they did all of the other ones that they've had over the years. So
yeah, and it was Hangouts before, of course, which lasted quite a long time. They just changed the name to Chat and baked it into Gmail on Android. So yeah, I like Chat, and it's actually quite nice sometimes that there's only 12 people in there that I know because you can't get bugged by everyone.
Quite true. I'm just going to turn on my little heater because it's starting to get a wee bit chilly up here.
Oh dear.
I wonder if the boiler's on downstairs. I have to go down and investigate. Okay, well that's a good collection of stuff. I'm quite interested by the super pixel or the pixel super res feature to see whether or not how well that works on crap cameras.
Yeah. Have you got a camera on the back of your tablet?
No. Well, I've got one on the front of it.
I'm not sure. Does it? They didn't say if it worked on the front one. They were saying it was on the back.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, I'm thinking my Chromebook. No, what tablet? Of course, yeah, okay. No, I've got a good camera on the back of it.
Right. Okay. Well, you won't need it then, will you?
the Nokia T20 isn't the greatest camera in the world.
Right. You could try it on
so
that.
Try that
yeah.
on that. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to go into the Harkback section, Ted, and what are you bringing this week?
The Fiio. Oh, it's like Fiio stuff. The Fiio stuff is in audio gear that's actually quite expensive normally, but really, really good quality. I've had a couple of cheaper Fiio devices, and they always feel like they're, made beautifully and really well done. So I'm hoping the same will be true for this Walkman-inspired Fiio cassette player. And incidentally, I've no idea if I'm pronouncing Fiio right. It's just a guess, and I've always said Fiio as Fiio.
Yeah.
And yeah, they obviously decided that the cassette player is coming back, and they're going to push it forward, move the envelope forward, and produced a cassette player that actually has lots of design features and colouring and build and shape and all the rest of it of the Walkman from, when was that? 1979.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's got a 3.5mm headphone jack and a LEDs USB-C port for charging, which brings me to my second point actually about this item, is that I don't get why they couldn't have put AA batteries in it, because if you put a built-in lithium-ion battery in it, fair enough, USB-C charging and all the rest of it, but, AA batteries would be just so much more flexible. It's not like this device is going to be drinking juice, there's not... yes, enough of that. There's not, it's not like it's a high voltage, wattage draining device, is it? So why not just make it AA batteries? And then if people want to use rechargeables, they can use rechargeables, or if they want to, they can get some in any corner shop in the world, basically. I was looking up the background of the AA batteries, and apparently they were invented in 1907, and they're still in every corner shop in the whole world, basically. And I don't get why Fiio and companies like them are making this beautiful retro little device and then locking it down, its lifetime down, to the life of the bloomin' built-in battery, which could be, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years. And it's not a device that you're going to want to upgrade like it would be a mobile phone. This is something you'll buy and keep. Anyway, I suppose the interesting bit here is that it's the retro resurgence of cassette tapes. You can buy cassette tapes now, can't you?
Yeah, I think you still can. I don't think they ever went away.
Right.
They just became a bit more limited.
No. I think what I mean is that I think that in the same way as artists are now releasing new material on vinyl, they're also releasing new material on cassettes.
Oh yeah,
I think that did
cassettes
go away.
Are having a resurgence. Yeah, it is pretty cool to think that that's something that's going to happen. But they need to equip this with a proper strap that goes right round your body. Up over your shoulder and down to your waist. That's how I remember Walkmans truly being. I know you went and got belt clips and things like that became a bit cooler for the kids, but the original Walkman, I remember dangling round people's midriffs on a shoulder strap.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
But I'm not going to argue with you about AA batteries. I do think most people think that they're pretty unsexy, and they prefer to be able to charge their stuff. I understand all your arguments for having AA batteries and using AA batteries, but I'd rather just be able to plug a USB in and charge something on the go.
And then buy another one 3 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
If that ever happens. I can't think of too many devices that the battery has died on. Really. Maybe some phones and things like that, but they're phones that are sitting in a cabinet.
Oh, hang on a minute. I forgot to mention that it's 133 quid.
That's quite expensive. Again, like we talked about the CD disc switcher that came out just before Christmas from Yamaha. I think it was Yamaha.
Oh
yeah. That was like 400 quid. If they had released this, I know you can go onto Amazon and buy 30 quid tape players and things like that, but this just feels a wee bit too much for what it is. It's a niche product.
Yeah.
And it's going to scare people who might just sort of dabble in it.
Retro.
Oh, yeah.
For those that can afford it, they buy it and put it on the shelf, and then people come round for dinner and say, "Oh, look, the cassette player, isn't that nice?" Actually, it's not 133 quid, it's 129, £4 cheaper, so you'll have to get one now.
I don't know. I only have one tape, I think.
I haven't got any.
No?
Not a single one. It'd be no good for me at all.
Right, okay. And you're the one who's banging on about this. Right,
well, it's just a nice retro idea, isn't it? And some people, no doubt, will... Well, younger people who don't remember a Sony Walkman, I guess it will be a bit lost on them, but they're the ones that are more likely to get it, probably.
Yeah. And what you said there, no doubt. I just heard that they were getting back together again, possibly.
Who?
No Doubt.
What's No Doubt?
It's a band.
Oh, is it?
Gwen Stefani's band, yes.
Never heard of it.
Oh, right, okay. Never mind then. Moving on. Bargain basement.
Aha.
We got a couple of bargains here. I'm going to start with Ted with your biggie.
Oh, the Asus ROG Ally has been reduced in Amazon and elsewhere, I think, from $699 to $599, and apparently that's the first out of kind of Black Friday reduction ongoingly that has been available. So if you want an Asus ROG Ally and not an MSI, whatever it is, or a Steam Deck, you can get 100 quid off. And oh, hang on a minute. That's oh no, it was at one point it was 549. Keeper says. Ooh. In December it was 549. So maybe it's not such a bargain. But yeah, it's certainly a bargain from the normal RRP.
It was in December 549, but I don't reckon that's yeah, because they were out of stock for a lot of time, so they must have just come back, gone in at that price, and then been on. I don't know. I wouldn't put much faith in that.
Yeah,
they maybe didn't have any. and it was just a holding price or something. I don't know.
Oh, instalments available too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, £99. What?
Oh, that's through Barclays, isn't it?
No, pay one plan from £99.80. Oh yeah, that's a Barclays. Sorry. Yeah, forget that. Move on.
Ooh. Right. Yes. Next up is a little collection of smart plugs. We've gone quite a few months without smart plugs, and I feel everyone's pain that they haven't had their update. But actually, I've been rejigging my smart plugs recently and been looking for new ones. And I happened to spot these this morning, and they look like a pretty decent little pack. And this deal ends in 5 hours and 15 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, people aren't going to be able to get that by the time I get this posted, and by the time they get to this point in the 2-hour podcast, it's going to be Tuesday.
There has been a record of these things just carrying on anyway after the time they say it's going to end. So,
okay,
might be worth a try.
Yes. Well, having a look at their Keepa, it doesn't seem to have gone down to this price for ever. It hasn't been at this price before. All right, well, we'll have a look and see later on.
Well, hang on a minute, because to rescue something from this, if you buy the 2-pack, it's £10.98. So to get the 4, it will be 22 quid, but it will still be significantly cheaper than the 36 quid it should be.
Possibly, yes. But at the moment they're sitting at £16. They are the Smart Plug Remote Voice Control. I don't know why there's an L there. That might be a typo. GNCC Smart Socket with wireless works for Alexa and Google Home.
I'll tell you what we do.
Plugs.
While we're in this 5-hour zone, we'll buy a load of these and get a gross in, and then we can sell them on to our MeWe group members. So you might have missed the 5-hour window, but don't worry, because we've got them.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go, folks. That's the solution Ted's offered to do. I might get some of them right now, just while they're on this.
It's a really good
deal.
price, isn't it? The last time I bought a 4-pack of these plugs, we worked it out at being £7 something each, and these are basically 4 quid each at that price. It's a really good deal.
Yeah, but I'm still of the mindset that I'd like to be able to try and keep the brands all the same, so they all work through the same app, because all of these have different apps.
Yeah. And
I've got my Tekken that I just used there to turn on my heater, and then down in the house I've got Casa for my TP-Link ones, and then I've got the Aukey ones which work off of. I've had to unplug them all because that app doesn't work anymore, and I need to find an app that works with them.
Right.
Yeah, because the Aukey ones are weird.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Smart Home or something like that worked with them. I don't know. I have to play around with them, because some of them stopped working, some of them aren't working as well as others, and some of them have functions that are available through the app that aren't available through Google, some of them the other way around.
Indeed.
So I don't know what the app would be like with these, but hopefully they would work nicely with Google Home, because they say they do.
Yeah, and we believe them.
Yeah. Next up.
Right. The Lexar 1TB micro SD card has been reduced down to £67.70. And although this website doesn't say, I think the last time we featured this, it was £103 or something. So it's a good price. And 1 terabyte for, and this is a class 3 card as well, which is V30. It's no slouch. And we do have evidence of the Lexar brand being okay and not a duff one. £67.70 for 1 terabyte.
Yeah, Lexar is a good brand. That's quite reasonable. Still, the idea of one of those cards dying, though, losing 67 quid is scary. But Lexar being good, I think you're onto a good thing there.
Indeed.
Yeah. Next up is, which one is it? It's Samsung, yes. I happened to notice this morning that Samsung have the 870 QVO 8 terabyte SATA 2.5 inch SSD, and it's down in price from £416 to £329 for 8 terabytes.
Wow.
That'd be nice in a laptop. And then, Ted, as you suggested, you could also put it in an external enclosure and plug it into your computer that way as well, and have much faster storage. hooked up to your laptop or your desktop.
Yes, indeed. Very good. That looks like a nice idea. And the SSD would just be so much faster. I've got my 16 terabyte Western Digital, but it is a spinning drive. But as we were saying before the show, it's only holding data. You don't need to access it. Read-write speeds don't really matter that much. But if they did, SSD is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you dump this into a laptop, it'll do quite well. But the £329, you would be far better spending that money elsewhere if you're looking for genuine storage and getting a spinning hard drive. Indeed.
Right, Sony Link Buds are next, and a chain from Amazon. We're going to Argos. They're 110 quid. Now, these have been, I think, in a sale on Amazon, a little bit cheaper than this. I got a feeling they were 109, but certainly not at the moment. So the Sony Link Buds, which are actually pretty good, nice idea. They're the ones with the hole in the middle, the Polo mint with a hole. They seem to work pretty well. 110 quid down from 150. That's Argos.
Yeah, they look weird. I would like to try a pair and see just how they fit into your head and how they sit. Yeah, I'm starting to notice a lot more people out with these earbuds in, walking along the coastline beside me and things. Before, I don't think they had them. Or they were always using the Apple ones, but now I'm starting to notice other ones in people's ears. Maybe Sony or Edifier or those sorts of things, different types in there, which is kind of nice, refreshing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because you obviously are getting better products. All right, my last one here is getting ahead of holidays and stuff like that. This is a UK to European plug adapter, and it's got 4 USB ports on it, 3 USB-A's and 1 USB-C. It's been dropped in price from £15 down to £13, and there's a 30% off voucher that takes that down to even less than that.
Oh yeah, so there is. That makes it about 9 quid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it should do. So that'll be a pretty cool thing to be able to plug in when you're on your holly balls, is that the word? And plug your headphones and your phone and your tablet, and then something else as well.
But only if you're in Germany, France, Spain, Greece, or Poland.
Very true. Yes. Yeah. Don't try using this in America because you'll have trouble.
Or in Belgium or Luxembourg. It's funny how they've picked out those 4 countries.
They have, and I'm just looking to see because further on down in the product description, it shows it with the American adapter as well.
Ah.
So I'm wondering if there's one actually included in the box and you can take it off and plug it in. I didn't think about that. Oh no, you can buy them separately. Right, okay. There's the EU adapter, the US plug adapter as well.
Yeah. Good job you checked, really. That was critical.
It is, absolutely, but very useful if you're going.
And there's a USB-C in there. I'm not sure that I've seen that before. No. Not that I'm a regular buyer of these adapters, but yeah, USB-C makes it kind of up to date. That's good.
Quite right. Right, well, that about brings us to the end, and my lunch has arrived just in time. Well, it arrived about an hour ago, but I didn't say anything. All right, well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk, and you can also find us on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter too, at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I also have my Mastodon. There's a link to that in the show notes below. And I have garethmiles.com, which has links everywhere. Ted, where can they find you?
They can find me at tedsalmon.com or in the MeWe group. Links in the show notes for all of that. There's also links to everything I do, audio podcasts and all the MeWe groups at tedsalmon.com, so head across there for that. You can also buy me a coffee. You can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon. And I've got a Mastodon, but I never go there. So perhaps I'll try and visit that and see if anyone's trying to find me.
Yeah, I'm finding I'm getting more interactions on Mastodon than I do on Twitter. I don't get any interaction on Twitter, actually.
No.
I think Twitter's X is god awful.
It's an X platform. An X platform.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, well, we'll catch us all in 2 weeks' time, and don't forget to hook up with us in Projector Room in the middle of the week for some movie
Hurrah!
chin wagging. Take care now.
Bye.